everybody, Lord Tremendous here, and this is it. This is my Lone Wolf GT prep beginning. This is a 2,300 point battle. I've decided I'm going with the Varangur. This army is awesome. The models I get to use are amazing, and my buddy Wakin Panoob, or however the hell you say his band's name, is going to be my first opponent with my new army. I'm stupid excited about this game. This game is brutal. It's up against Ogres. I'm playing Varangur. He's playing Ogres. You know it's going to be brutal, and I love that the first game I get in against or in with these guys is against Ogres, my original army. Moment. Anyway, this, like I said, this game is bloody as hell. There's almost nothing left on the table at the end, and I couldn't have asked for a better beginning game. So sit back, relax, and get ready for this roller coaster of a game. Here's my list, and I'll try to explain my choices. I have a King and a Chimera. I gave him Brutal and the Fog. His job is to get in, get deep, and not take a whole lot of damage. The Fog makes him stealthy, and Brutal helps me break stuff. And plus, I like using the model. I got a Chieftain on a mount with Brutal and Kevinar's Flying Hammer or whatever, and his job is to do the same. Get back there, get a hold of, like, shooters or any kind of war machine, stuff like that. I have a couple of Scalds. They're butt naked. They're just there for inspiring purposes and stuff like that. And I get to use a couple more cool models. And then I have two Magnus Conclaves with Famulus, or however you say it. They're my backup. They're my support units, and I like them because I compare them to, like, mobile bolt throwers. I love that they hit on 4s. I love that they can be elite, and they do some decent damage. So I threw them in there, and I'm hoping to really be happy with them in the end. Making up the bulk of my army, of course, is, well, starting off with the mounted Sons of Korgan. With their high speed, high amounts of attacks, their ability to put out damage even through decent defense. I have a regiment of these guys, and I'm excited to use them. I gave them Fury because if they catch a butt whooping, I don't want them to not be able to countercharge. That frustrates the hell out of me. So being able to put Fury on them was awesome. I have 2 units of Tundra Wolf troops. They're chaff, but at the same time, they're chaff that I'm going to attack with, because with 10 attacks and stuff like that, they're pretty badass. I also have a Fallen Horde. I didn't originally have these guys in my list, especially with COK 18 when they lost Pathfinder. I really wasn't interested in them. But then I bought some models I really wanted to use, so I'm trying them out. On paper, they don't seem like the type of unit I would typically use in the army that I want to run using Varangur. But I've also seen a lot of things online about how people really like them, so I want to give them a shot, see if they're a good fit for me. For the rest of my army, I've got 2 regiments of Sons of Korgan, the foot troops, with 2-handed weapons and Fury. And I'll be honest with you, the reason I put 2-handed weapons on them is because I thought they were only crushing strength 1 without it. I didn't realize it until my 3rd game with these guys that 2-handed weapons actually makes them crushing strength 3. So in my 4th game, I changed that. But anyway, for my next few games, they will have 2-handed weapons and Fury, and they're just a solid backbone of my army. They're slow, sure, but when they get a hold of something, they're going to beat it into a pulp. And then I have a Warband Horde with 2-handed weapons and a Crystal Pendant of Retribution. And the idea there is they go forward, and my opponent has to double charge them. They got the big frontage, they've only got defense 3, they're not going to be able to shoot them off the table real easy, and if they are shooting them off the table, they're ignoring everything else. And when they finally do commit troops to try to break that horde, it explodes on them, and the rest of my army can swoop in and destroy the rest of them. So that's what I was thinking when I put that unit in there, and if they decide to ignore that unit, it's still a horde with 2-handed weapons. They're going to beat the crap out of almost anything they run into. So I really like the concept of that particular unit. I'm proud of that one. That's going to do it for my list. Stupid excited about it, but I'm going to post my opponent's list, play some music. Feel free to pause it whenever you like, see what he took. and here's deployment. So keep in mind, now my army obviously is the one in front, or the one closest to you anyway, and keep in mind, this army is literally sticky tacked onto the multi-bases there. So if you see my models kind of falling down or leaning funny or whatever, it's because crappy gummy stuff is holding them in place. With the exception of the big old unit, my horde unit in the middle of the warband, they're actually complete, and that's how that unit's going to look, and it looks awesome. And then 2 units of the Tundra Wolves, they're in there too, they're good to go. But everything else is waiting to be painted, and I didn't want to glue them to the bases or anything like that until they got to be painted, because the people that paint my army hate it when I do that. So from left to right, I'm using a proxy model for my chieftain that's mounted. Next to them are 2 Magnus Conclaves. In the forest there are my first unit of Sons of Korgan. Then I've got a unit of Tundra Wolves. Behind them are my Fallen, and behind them is one of my Scalds. The Horde Brick, like I said, is my Warband. Right next to them is another unit of Wolves. The Chariot thing, that's actually my mounted Sons of Korgan with a Scald behind them. And then I've got my second unit of Sons of Korgan on foot right beside them. And on the far right flank is my King and a Chimera. And I have no idea what I'm doing. I've never played this army before, so I'm stupid excited. I'm way overexcited. I know I am. I know I'm going to make mistakes. You're going to scream at your screen, but damn it, I want to see what these units can do, and I cannot wait to get them into combat. So get ready to see a very one-dimensional game. So here it is. Here's top 1 after movement, and wouldn't you know it, very first game of the Varangur, and I get to go first. How exciting is that? Yes, I'm going to be like this all game. I'm stupid excited. So I push forward. Everything that can comes forward. The stuff that's in the forest, obviously, I can't march with. None of it has Pathfinder or anything. So they all go through the forest at their regular speed. But everything else that can, especially the 2 units, well, the unit on the left of Tundra Wolves cannot march because they were in the forest. So they come up 8 inches. But the Warband and the other unit of dogs, they push forward pretty far, about 10 inches total on the both of them. I want my opponent to charge the Warband. I think that would be great. I don't think that the Ogres could do enough wounds with just a single unit to actually cause them to rout. So I'm okay with them charging them because I'm going to countercharge, and they might actually take a unit out before they blow up, which would be great. On the right side there, everything comes forward, and my King on a Chimera on the right flank there, he comes shooting forward, using the hill kind of as a blocker, but at the same time, it's not because it's only an inch high. But I want that angle and stuff. I want it to be a little bit more difficult, so he's kind of aiming. I'm daring the chariots to expose their flank. On the left side there, it's harder to see, but my my chieftain on a mount, he comes running up towards that hedge. I want him into those shooters by turn 3 at the latest, and I'm kind of hoping they shoot at him because he's an individual, but we'll see. But yeah, that's really it for my movement. Just stupid excited to get up there. So, in the pansy phase, both of my conclaves fire at the shooters because I'm just trying to waver them. And I'm thinking 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, doing D3 each. I have a slight chance of getting a hold of him. He does have an army standard within 6 inches of them, I think. And so it wasn't really something that I was really thinking was going to happen. But I'm only able to do a single wound. 2 Magnus Conclaves and only a single wound goes through. I was not over enthused about that. I was a little surprised. On paper they look good, but in practice, granted it's the first shots with them, really underwhelming. Nothing else happens in my turn, so here's bottom 1 after movement, and my opponent is not nearly as excited as I am and comes up intelligently. He knows I'm excited. I've known this guy for years. He can tell that I'm coming out of my skin, and so look over on the right side of the table there. He takes his Alohi, which are his allies, and he flies them up in front of his chariots, looking at my dragon, knowing that my dragon is now easily within 20 inches of that unit. He knows I'm going to take the bait. Oh, my opponent knows me. So he comes up and he puts the Alohi in such a way that he knows I'm not going to be able to turn it away. I know it's a trap, but I see him do it and I start salivating. I'm like, ah! So The rest of his army comes up conservatively, very conservatively. He doesn't really need to come up after me. He's got way more shooting than I do, and his range is just better, and he knows I'm coming forward. So you can see on the left side there, his warriors came up a little bit, but on the right, for the most part, other than his Alohi and his chariot shifting, look at the dragon, nothing else moves, and that's it for his movement. In the Pansy phase, the shooters open up on my non-forested Magnus Conclave, and they are able to do a single wound to me. So, okay, that's not terrible. That individual rule really helps with that. And then his wizard fires a lightning bolt at my warband and does 4 wounds to them. Then this unit of shooters onto the hill with Blessing of the Gods fire at my warband and put 2, 4, 6, 8 more wounds onto them. They have a total of 12, but luckily their nerve check is really high and they're perfectly fine, which is great. I'm thrilled that that unit soaked up the wounds and nothing more vital on the table. With no combat, we go over here to top of 2 after movement, and I fire forward. On the right flank there, my dragon takes the bait. I eat it all up. I know I'm screwed. I know I'm in trouble. I know this is a terrible idea. I just don't care. I want desperately to see what my king and a chimera can do. I know he's only got 10 attacks. I just want to see what happens more than anything. So I go in. What the hell? We're only playing for $4,000. What's the big deal? The sons on the mounted sons and the sons on foot in the forest there on the right side. They go into the forest so they can possibly countercharge something next turn, or I'm not countercharge, but charge something next turn. And then in the center, both units of dogs and my warband shoot forward. I was too far with the warband to charge anything, so I moved forward, basically giving him beautiful flanks and fronts. He knows the crystal's in there. I've told him. I don't think he's forgotten, but we'll see what happens. The dogs don't have the crystal. I want him to hit the dogs. I want him to try to kill the dogs so that I can countercharge his stuff with my army. On the right side, or I'm sorry, on the left side there, the Fallen and the other foot soldiers of Korgan come forward, getting ready to countercharge anything they can charge there. And on the left side there, my chieftain moves up so that he can charge the shooters next turn on the left flank. My conclave stays still, and that's it for my movement. So this time in the Pansy phase, my Magnus Conclaves, wash, rinse, repeat, both fire all their shots at the shooters, and I do 6 wounds this time, so that's a lot better. So maybe it was just a fluke, maybe they just didn't do great that first round, but 6 wounds, putting a total of 7 on them, it doesn't do anything, but not terrible at all. I was very happy about that. So we go into combat, my first close combat with Varangur ever. And I'm able to do 8 wounds to the Alohi out of 10, which is magnificent. And as you can see, I rout them. 8 wounds, plus brutal, plus not having anyone around for inspiring, plus rolling high. First combat with my king, with Varangur and all, and I single shot a horde brig of Alohi. So happy. Stupid happy. I don't even care. I was like, yay! Of course, then I see what my king is going to go up against next turn, and even my opponent's like smirking at me, and I'm like, yeah, I know. So I went forward D6 inches, figuring what the hell. I know his giant's coming in. I know his chariots are coming in. I might as well have some fun with it. And I went forward to see just how much damage my king can take. So that brings us to bottom of 2, and here's where the blood really starts flying. In the middle there, both units, a unit of warriors hits in the front and flank of my warband, which is going to hurt a lot. On the right side there, his chariots and his giant charge into my dragon, or I'm sorry, my king and a chimera. That's going to hurt a lot as well. It is what it is. His siege breakers charge into my tundra wolves on the right side. Right side there, and his army standard charges into my wolves on the left side, which I'm actually perfectly fine with. Other than that, his wizard comes over to harass my chieftain, his shooters stay perfectly still, his other army standard moves around to just try to throw some inspiring out where it can go, and that's it for his movement. In his pansy phase, his wizard fires a lightning bolt at my chieftain and does a single wound to him, so not terrible. And then that shooter's unit that I've been kind of aggressing towards opens up on him and does 2 more wounds to him for a total of 3. My chieftain's pretty tough, so I think he's going to be alright. His other unit of shooters, with Blessing of the Gods, fire at my Fallen and put 5 wounds onto them. Again, they're pretty tough, so I think they're going to be alright. And then we dive into combat. Well, he starts off with the Chariot and the Giant one, because honestly I deserve this. And as you can see, he does 19 wounds to my king. Which, considering the amount of attacks that were just thrown at him, 19 is pretty good. My king is screwed, I know he is. I knew he was before the charge even happened. But I was very impressed with the amount of damage he could soak up before they got through. So he's sitting on 19 wounds, and now I gotta rely on my opponent to roll Snake Eyes. My opponent is a dick, and he ends up routing my king and a Chimera. He didn't have to do that, but he did. I don't blame him for a second. He played that beautifully, and I told him as much at the time. It was a beautiful trap set up for the perfect sucker. Afterwards, he repositions his units like this, and we move on to the next combat. In this one, his Siege Breakers bash the heads in on my poor Tundra Wolves, doing 12 wounds to them, which is actually more than their route check number. The Wolves die horrendous deaths, and the Siege Breakers gorge themselves on their corpses. It is the way it should have went. With the 2 units of Warriors slamming into my Warband, he does 6, 12, 18... 23, 27 wounds to them in total. On top of their 12 is 39. They have a chance, right? The answer is absolutely not, and they rout. But when they rout, they explode. So he doesn't roll that much damage, though. He only rolls 5 hits total. The unit that hit him in the front take all 5, but the unit in the flank only take 4. Could have been a lot better, but I'm learning. And I wish I had better utilized these guys, but how am I going to learn if I don't get my teeth kicked down my throat a few times first? Both the Warriors turn to face, and this is when I realize I really don't have anything to go after the unit that hit him in the flank, unless the dogs break here. We'll see. I might be able to pull something off here. In this combat, his army standard bounces off of my dogs, doesn't do a single wound to him. And, okay, great. Maybe my dogs will get to feast on an army standard. I should probably feed him at least once. So we go over here to top of 3, because combat's over, and I try. My Sons of Korrigan can see the warriors that charge my guys in the front, and I thought about going into the Siege Breakers, but defense 6 in the front, I got nothing. You know, I don't want to go into that. So I'm thinking the Mounted Sons of Korrigan can hit that unit of warriors, they can see them, I'm going to do that. So they run into them. My Fallen couldn't make it. They were actually a little bit shy. Maybe I should have went after the Siege Breakers. I don't know. It's what I decided to do. Whether or not it was a good idea, well, you'll find out in a little bit. The dogs countercharge the army standard, and my chieftain goes into the shooters. Other than that, I really don't have anything else. The Sons of Korrigan on foot go up after the giant, and that'll be exciting. The Skalds kind of try to keep up with everything. On the left side there, my Fallen and my foot soldiering sons, they just kind of turn to face and are just looking for targets of opportunity to charge, and that's it for my movement. In the pansy phase, my bipolar friggin' Magnus Conclave, they fire at the shooters on top of the hill, and again, only a single wound is done. Gotta be honest, I don't like the inconsistency of these conclaves. I know it's only the 3rd time I've ever used them, but it's starting to kind of piss me off. With no other shooting, we jump into combat, and I start off with my chieftain into the shooters. I'm able to do 4 wounds, and considering he's only got 5 attacks, that's great. Thanks to Brutal, I rolled just high enough to waver them, so these shooters won't be doing anything next turn. And, I mean, yeah, if his wizard wants to charge into his flank, he can, but I'm an individual. I don't think he gets to triple or double his attacks or anything like that. So now my chieftain just gets to continuously beat on these shooters until they're dead. That's nice. My Tundra Wolves are pissed off and take 4 big old chunks out of this army standard. I don't think it's going to be enough to so much as waver him, but 4 wounds ain't terrible. I'll take it. Like I said, it wasn't enough to so much as even waver the guy, but I did put 4 wounds on him, and then I back off an inch. So at least he knows I was there. Here is the most disappointing thing that happens all game. My mounted Sons of Korgan flub against the Warriors with defense 4. I hit a whole bunch. Out of their 20 attacks, I hit with 17 of them. And then I wounded with 3. 3. Yeah. Yeah, and I got a unit of Warriors on their left flank, and I got a unit of Siege Breakers on their right. They can both see them. This is an incredibly bad position for them to be in. Believe it or not, I still waver these guys, but it doesn't matter. The Warriors, I bounce off an inch, the Warriors and the Siege Breakers are going to charge me in my flanks, and my mounted sons are doomed. This sucks. This is all dice, I know, sometimes you gotta take the good with the bad, but man, does this suck. My foot soldiers slam into this giant and do 7 wounds to him, which all things considered, I'm really happy about. And also, remember, I'm doing crushing strength too because I'm stupid and I don't know my army. So 7 wounds, ye frickin' haw. I'm sorry, this isn't a giant, this is a mammoth, but either way, I bounce off an inch, and it just kind of looks at me and goes, oh, you're in for it next turn, and yeah, I probably am. Speaking of next turn, here's bottom of 3 after movement, and wow. So, the mammoth countercharges my Sons of Korgan on the right side there, and that's awful. And then my opponent throws me for a loop I did not see coming. His chariots can see the flank of my mounted Sons of Korgan. And they have the distance to make the charge. So he moves his Siege Breakers out of the way, as you can see, and charges in his chariots into the flank of my mounted sons. So 60 attacks are coming into their flank. I'm screwed. Very, very well played by my opponent. Meanwhile, his other unit of warriors charges, or he moves his army standard the hell out of the way, and he sends his other unit of ogres into my dogs, which spells the end for them. And yeah, that's it for the moment. But damn well played by my opponent. What can you do? In the pansy phase, his army standard with a boomstick puts 2 wounds on my Sons of Korgan right there. Not enough to do anything to him, but it's got to start somewhere, right? And then his bastard shooters on top of that hill fire at my Fallen again, putting 3 more wounds onto them. Those guys can shoot. I know this. I know this. And then we dive into almighty combat. The mammoth attacks my Sons of Korgan, and I get lucky. He's only able to do 3 wounds to me, which shouldn't prove enough to actually so much as waver this unit. I'm absolutely right, and then we go into this next combat. His chariots beating the pulp out of my poor mounted sons. 24 wounds, which, considering he had 60 attacks, is pretty poor, but 24 wounds on anything is pretty much going to spell its demise. And the chariots have brutal, so it might as well be 25. Really hard to watch, but at the same time, I was so impressed with his ability to see that. I was rooting him on. Hell yeah! The mounted sons have no real hope of surviving this. They rout, and that I'm really upset about their flubbed attacks into the warriors. I know it's not the unit's fault. Sometimes the dice gods just gotta take their toll, but it was almost worth it to see the chariots at the flank of them and do 24 wounds. The chariots reposition themselves like so, and yeah, they've just got to worry about the dangerous terrain that is now the corpses of my mounted sons. Sigh. In this combat with the warriors against my dogs, he kind of flubs again and does only 5 wounds to my dogs, which makes me nervous. I don't think they're going to break, and they don't, which really kind of sucks. They do waver, and he backs off an inch, but now I can't charge them with my sons. I guess I do have his army standard sitting right there, but I was really hoping for a juicier target, you know? That's it for my opponent's combat, so here's top of 4 after movement, and you know what? I do what I can with what I got. My chieftain goes back into the shooters, my sons, Corgan, go into the army standard, because that's all the targets I have. My fallen go into the most impenetrable unit of warriors I've ever seen in my entire life, that just bounced, or had my mounted sons bounce off of them, and then my sons on the right side there, they go back into the mammoth, the Scald runs up behind him to wave his flag really, really hard. My other Scald on the left flank there gets behind the dogs and the sons just to try to give them a little bit of inspiring. And one of my Magnus Conclaves, when not in the forest, moves around so that they can take some shots at some things. That is really it for my movement. In the pansy phase, look, see, there's the Magnus Conclaves. They fire at the shooters again, and they do 5 wounds this time. So 1, 6, 1, 5, they're all over the place. And I get it's a dice game. I get that they, semi-reliable, and when they're on, and when they're off, but I need units in my armies that are reliable, consistent. Yeah, I saw what happened with the Mounted Sons. That was unfortunate. But I don't like the bipolar damage that the Magnus Conclaves are doing. I'm not willing to take them out of the list yet, but I was really hoping that they were going to do more. With no other shooting, here's combat. I start off with my chieftain again because I really like the guy, and he does 3 wounds to the shooters. So they're hurting pretty bad at this point, and as long as I can get 3 wounds consistently out of the 5 attacking, or 5 attack having chieftain, I'm happy. And he does it this time. He routs them. They're off the table, and he turns to face that wizard that was been shooting with lightning bolts and stuff. Like, hey, I need to talk to you. My Sons of Corgans go up next against his army standard, and they end up doing 7 wounds to him, which is perfectly fine. He's already got 4 on him. He's probably gone this turn, but honestly, I was really expecting them to do more than that. I'm kind of rolling a little low. Turns out it doesn't matter for the army standard. He routs, which is beautiful, and then my sons turn to face the warriors, who may or may not eat the dogs alive next turn. In this combat, my Fallen, I don't know what it is with this damn unit of warriors, but I cannot hurt them. 18 attacks from these guys, only 4 wounds. And it was the same thing. I hit like with 13 of their attacks, only able to wound with 4. Really kind of hurt my morale. The 2 units I was really hoping to see a lot of damage from have not been able to do 5 wounds by themselves. This is painful. This is really painful. I'm fortunate, though, and that unit has taken enough combined wounds to rout, and then I go forward d6 inches, and I come forward 6, taking me out of the charge arc of the chariots, which may or may not be a boon. We'll see. My Sons of Corgan over here, now that they're no longer hindered on this counter charge, are able to do 11 wounds to the Mammoth. That should be enough to break this thing, which is a shame because that model is triumphant. The Mammoth is murdered, and my sons turn to face the other direction and try to get back into this fight while it still can. So with that, all I can do, here's bottom of 4 after movement, and those chariots come trundling into the flank of my dogs. I don't believe he sends his warriors in. I think they turn to face the sons, and yeah. On the right flank there, his army standard turns to face the other unit of Sons of Corgan in order to block them from hitting his, siege breakers, which I don't have a choice. I have to take the charge. The only thing I can do is try to move my Scald into the way, and I don't know if he's going to be able to. He can only move 5, so if he can't block them, then there's nothing he can do. And by blocking, I know that he's an individual and he can overrun into my unit, but now it becomes a dice roll as opposed to a sure thing. So I'll sacrifice my Scald and bank on my opponent rolling a 1. We'll see, though. You'll see what happens. The rest of his army just kind of pivots around and gets ready. I think his shooters on the hill charge my Fallen, which I'm actually okay with because I'm hoping that they're able to stand up to that. And it brings him a little bit closer to my chieftain, so maybe he gets to charge him next turn as well. But that's really it for his movement. During the pansy phase, his wizard fires a lightning bolt at my chieftain, doing a single wound to him, which he's able to take no problem. And then his army standard with the Warbow Akaba or something like that fires it into my sons and actually does another wound to him. So hey, well used indeed. We jump into combat. My opponent starts off with this one and is able to do 6, 12, 18, 24, 28 wounds to the flank of my poor Warhounds. You know, for their maiden game, he's not happy with anything that I brought on the table because he is turning it into liquid paste, which is actually really kind of fun to watch. 28 wounds into my poor dogs who are already carrying 5. I know you're completely shocked, but no, he does not roll snake eyes. The dogs cannot stand up to that, and they die a horrible death. In this combat with the shooters against my fallen, he's only able to do 3 more wounds to him, which was actually about what I was hoping for. But they're already carrying 7 wounds, so it brings him up to a total of 10, and all he has to do is roll once well, and I'm screwed. He does it, yeah, I think he rolls like a 10, my fallen rout, and then he turns his shooters to face my chieftain, because he knows they're coming. Or he knows he's coming anyway. Well played. Can't say anything negative about it, because he's just beat me in my own game. That takes us to the top of 5, and I've had enough of these damn chariots. I should go after the warriors. It would be the smarter choice, but screw that. I'm going to make these chariots bleed a little bit. My sons charge into the front of the chariots and make it no problem. The chieftain charges into the shooters because those sons of bitches don't get to survive this game. And then my other sons of Corrigan charge into his army standard because it's all they got. I do move the Scald up to try to block him, but it is not going to be enough. If his siege breakers want to slam into my other sons, they're going to be able to do it. My second Scald moves over just to make sure he stays within inspiring for the sons, and my Magnus Conclaves get ready to shoot at his warriors, hopefully do enough damage to at least waver them. That is it for my movement. Nothing happens in shooting or anything like that, so we go straight into combat, and I'm able to put 4 wounds on this unit of shooters. This chieftain is something else. I really, really like his ability. Yeah, the shooters can charge him next turn if I don't waver him or something like that, but he's really kicking ass and he's stopping them from shooting. This is a cool choice. I like this guy. Now, they already had like 6 wounds on him. The 4 brought him to 10, and as you can see, he routed them. So he took out both units of shooters. Yes, I'm well aware that my Magnus Conclave helped, and they wouldn't have broke otherwise. But this guy with Brutal charging in the units like that, I'm seriously impressed right now. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to play some more games before I make a final decision, but right now he's looking real good. And no, this isn't the actual model I'm going to use for this particular character choice. The one that I am going to use, Big Tom is currently painting, and I think it's going to look amazing. This right here is probably the coolest thing that happens in the entire game, though. The Sons of Corrigan, with 20 attacks, put 15 wounds. 15 wounds onto the chariots and rout them. Wow. Wow, and look how cool the models look. Yeah, I know, the sticky tack's not holding them on very well. And yes, that's sand underneath them. But, yeah, I'm stupid excited, stupid happy that this happened. And then I overrun in about 5 or 6 inches. I think it's a full 6 afterwards, just so I don't get flank charged anymore. But that was awesome. Really, really awesome. The Sons of Corrigan, even on foot, are amazing. Now, if only I could get the mounted guys to do that. Not to be outdone, the other unit of Sons of Corrigan smash the final army standard to death, and then they just kind of stand right there and take it. I know the siege breakers are coming in. All I can do is hope that the hinder that they're about to take is enough to hold back some of the wounds they're about to do. We'll see, though. They hit on 4 or 3s. I think that unit has the Brew of Sharpness, so it's not really going to matter. Ugh. Here's the bottom of 5 after movement, and it's coming right down to it. It's going to get ugly quick. His siege breakers charge into my sons, and that was a smart thing to do. His other unit of warriors turn to face my sons that just took out the chariots, and his wizard turns to face my chieftain. That's it. We are beating each other to death. In the pansy phase, his wizard fires the lightning bolt off on my chieftain, doing 3 more wounds to him, and, oof. I mean, he's a 14-16, so he's pretty tough, but I don't want to press it too much more. This lightning bolt must have hit a soft spot, though, because my chieftain wavers. He's not routed, so he doesn't get any points, but he's hurting, and I guess I can understand that. My opponent goes into combat, and he starts off with the Siege Breakers. They beat the shit out of my Sons of Korgan, putting 12 wounds on him. They were already carrying 4. That takes him to 16. Come on, Snake Eyes. It wasn't meant to be. He ended up rolling more than Snake Eyes and routing my unit of Sons. They did amazing, they really did, and I don't know any unit that can take a charge from a unit of Siege Breakers like that. So, it is what it is, I tried, and I'm still very pleased with the unit. They turn around like so in order to countercharge my, what's it called? My Sons that are in the middle of the table, and that's pretty much it for his movement. Or for his combat phase, anyway. Here's top of 6 after movement, and there's none, really. What's it called? My Chieftain turns to face the Wizard because he's wavered. That's really all he can do. My Sons of Korgan turn to face the Warriors because that's all they can do. My Scalds get out of the way so they can't be charged, and that is all I've got. We go into the Pansy phase, and both of my Magnus Conclaves fire at the remaining unit of Warriors and do 2 wounds. You know, it's just so hot or cold with these things. I would like to see 2 wounds each for a total of 4 average every single turn. You know, 2 wounds from each of them I don't think is a huge thing to ask for, but getting 1, what did they do total? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 wounds in 6 turns. I'm really not impressed. I'm really, really not impressed with them. Again, first game, maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe I just shot at things that were too difficult to hit. Or maybe they're just not as good as they look on paper. I don't know. Nothing else happens in my turn, so here's bottom of 6 after movement, and his Warriors slam into my Sons. And this is what it comes down to. If I can survive, I think I've got a good chance of at least a draw, but if he takes out my Sons, I think I might be screwed. We'll see, but that's really it. His Sons, or his Warriors go into my Sons, the Siege Breakers come up behind him just in case there's a turn 7. His Wizard is going to shoot at my Chieftain again, and everything else he has is dead. So, there's a lot of blood on this field. In the Pansy phase, he fires another Lightning Bolt at my Chieftain, doing 2 more wounds to him. And unfortunately, it's enough to waver him yet again. Really sucks. I would have liked to charge this guy 1 turn, but it is what it is. Well played by my opponent. What can you do? We go into combat, and unfortunately, his Warriors knock it out of the park. Needing 3s to hit, and I believe 2s to wound, he does 11 wounds to my Sons. They're already carrying 2, brings them up to 13, and I believe they're 15, 17s. I do have my Scald right there, but he needs to roll, like, poorly in order to rout them. He routs them like a boss. What can you do? And they break. I'm not even upset. My opponent just outplayed me here, and very well done on him. Just in case there's a turn 7, he turns to face the Magnus Conclaves, and yeah. Whew, I hope there's not a turn 7. And I get my wish. There is not a turn 7. So there it is. There's the end of the game. He's got a Siege Breaker unit. He's got a Warrior Horde. And he's got his Wizard in the back. I've got 2 Magnus Conclaves, 2 Scalds, and my Chieftain left on the table. Neither of our victory parties are going to be good. It's super close on points. Honestly, after looking at it, I thought he had the victory. But we'll get to the recap where you find out what happened right away, because this game is over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
As some of you may have figured out already, it was a draw for Lord Tremendous. He got 1,765 out of me. I got 1,650 out of him for a difference of 115 towards him. He got 115 points over me, but in order to get a victory, you need to get 230 points, 10% of the armies. We're playing 2,300. It's a draw. I lost everything except for 2 Magnus Conclaves, 2 Scalds, and the Chieftain. Had I kept my Sons, had he not gotten my Sons of Korgan at the last minute like that, I think I would have actually won. So my opponent played beautifully. He really, really did. Just an absolutely excellent game. I enjoyed everything about this game. Just how close it was from start to finish, how well matched we were, how even we were. It really just came down to my opponent outplayed me. This is exactly what I was hoping for in my first game with these guys, and I got it. I couldn't have asked for anything more. I know I made a lot of mistakes, and I made them because I was excited. That's what I do. When I want to learn about an army or a unit, I send them into combat that they're going to lose just to see what happened. Like my king on a chimera, I gave him away like an idiot. My opponent knew I was going to give him away like an idiot, and he died like an idiot because, well, I played him like an idiot. I learned that the Sons of Korgan are amazing. Not so much the mounted ones, but the ones on foot are incredible. Not only that, but I love the units. The Chieftain is OP. Being able to get in there, you would think 5 attacks wouldn't be that big of a deal, but the ability to shoot past everything, get into them, and actually cause a little bit of damage with Brutal, stopping them from shooting, is, well, tremendous. It's really, really overpowered, and it was pretty much my answer to the shooters. If I had played them a little bit more aggressive, I would have gotten them in a lot sooner, but it was my first game with them, and I will learn from this. Why haven't I been playing this army sooner? I also learned that I forgot that Ogre Chariots, or Chariots in general, got a huge boost in COK 18. They are a lot stronger in horde formation as well. I was used to doing them in little regiments. Of course, one was always supposed to blow up. But yeah, in a horde formation, even with their massive flanks, they're dangerous as hell. My opponent's Ogre list was rock solid, and I have no problem with this draw. I'm proud of this draw. Like I said, not super impressed with the conclaves. They're so bipolar. I'm falling on the side of not liking them. I'm going to try them again, but right now they're kind of on my shit list. And I don't know if Fallen is a good fit for my lists. The Crushing Strength 1 only. I know, I'm spoiled with Crushing Strength 2 and all that. But it's what I know, it's what I want, it's how I want to play it. And I'm eyeballing the Dire Fangs, so we'll see. I'm going to try this list again. I'm going to try to give it a fair shake and see if it's just, early jitters or just piss poor use by me, or maybe if they're just a bad fit for me. You've got an opinion, throw it in the comments section. Hell, I'll listen to it. I'll entertain anything. But that's just how I'm feeling after my very first game, so we'll see. You know what, though? All things considered, for a first game with the Varangur, I'm just amazed. Just so pleased about every aspect of it. Thank you, buddy. This was a great game. He's an amazing opponent. He really is. And that's one of the best things about King's War. I actually get to play games with this guy again. Absolutely in love with this army. I made the right choice. I really did. For me, this is the right army, and I cannot wait for our rematch. Oh, I'm ready to go to the store just talking about it, doing a battle report, but that would end in divorce, so I won't do that. I'll have to wait till Saturday, like always. But there you have it, guys and gals. Battle report number 16 is officially in the history books. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I will get back to you as quick as I can. But yeah, guys, thanks.